On the 1st of July, 1967, in a shuttered villa 3 blocks from the Saigon Opera House, a rubber stamp thuds onto a stack of dossiers marked VCI, Viet Cộng Infrastructure. The room holds no generals, no gunships, no artillery plotting boards. Instead, 12 Americans from the Central Intelligence Agency and 20 South Vietnamese police captains bend over index cards that list hamlet chiefs, tax collectors, and school teachers. The cards bear no coordinates for airstrikes, only addresses, aliases, and the names of cousins. This is ICX, Intelligence Coordination and Exploitation, and it operates on the belief that insurgencies collapse when their political skeleton breaks, not their combat units. Outside the villa, Military Assistance Command, Vietnam counts enemy battalions and body counts. Inside, dossier pages rustle, and an officer whispers the program's coming Vietnamese name, Phụng Hoàng. Phoenix. For the next 5 years, this invisible network decides more outcomes than any division. The conventional story casts Phoenix as a death squad, a blunt tool for midnight assassinations. Critics freeze on estimates of 12,000 to 26,000 Viet Cong cadre killed between 1968 and 1972, the range reflecting contested counting methods, and call it state terror. Defenders point to approximately 81,700 total neutralizations and argue the program dismantled the shadow government that Hanoi built hamlet by hamlet. Both sides treat Phoenix as a singular thing, a CIA-run assassination program. Neither asks the deeper question: how does an intelligence fusion cell with no infantry battalions, no gunships, and a budget measured in thousands, not billions, claim to neutralize more enemy cadre than a decade of search and destroy sweeps? The answer lies not in killing, but in a mechanism the war's historians rarely diagram. Phoenix is not a weapon. It is a bureaucratic machine that turns information into action faster than the insurgency can regenerate its political structure. The Viet Cộng infrastructure is not a military target. It is a parallel government. Hamlet chiefs who collect taxes, security cadre who enforce party discipline, propaganda officers who recruit teenagers, finance officers who move gold through the Delta. By 1967, United States intelligence estimates 70,000 to 80,000 VCI cadre operate across South Vietnam, most without weapons, many holding day jobs as teachers or clerks. They are invisible to battalion sweeps, invulnerable to airstrikes, and the reason Hanoi controls villages within rifle range of American bases. MACV, Military Assistance Command Vietnam, kills Viet Cong and People's Army of Vietnam soldiers by the thousands. Yet every spring, the insurgency regenerates because the VCI remains intact. In May 1967, Robert Coma arrives in Saigon as president, Lyndon Johnson's special assistant for pacification, carrying orders to fuse the war's military and political sides. He creates CORDS, Civil Operations and Revolutionary Development Support, and beneath it, ICX, a targeting cell that merges CIA officers, South Vietnamese police, and military intelligence. The system rests on 3 layers. At the top, Province Interrogation Centers, 44 facilities, 1 per province, turn captured documents and prisoner debriefs into target cards. In the middle, District Intelligence and Operations Coordination Centers, approximately 240 cells, refine those cards with agent reports, defector interviews, and census data. At the bottom, Provincial Reconnaissance Units, approximately 5,000 Vietnamese paramilitary operators at 1969 peak strength, advised by CIA and U.S. Special Forces, execute cordon and search raids, ambushes, and snatch operations. Every target requires confirmation from 2 to 4 independent sources: a captured roster, a defector's statement, an agent's photograph, a relative's interview. The blacklist is not a guess. It is a dossier. On the 1st of July 1968, the South Vietnamese government formalizes the effort under decree, naming it Phụng Hoàng, Phoenix, and assigning police, not soldiers, as the lead. The rubber stamp thuds again, now with legal authority. From Quang Tri to Sa Mau, the network divides South Vietnam into an estimated 2,500 intelligence grids, each smaller than a battalion's area of operations, each hunting individuals, not units. The insurgency, for the first time, faces an enemy that knows its members' names before they fire a shot. Not firepower, but filing systems, not sweeps, but surgery. Phoenix does not fight the Viet Cong. It erases the bureaucracy that makes the Viet Cong possible. On the 31st of January, 1968, Viet Cong sappers blow through the wall of the Imperial Citadel in Hue, beginning a 26-day occupation that kills an estimated 2,800 civilians and destroys the old capital. The Tet Offensive shocks the United States, but in Hue, it hands Phoenix its Rosetta Stone. When the 1st Cavalry Division and South Vietnamese Marines retake the city on the 2nd of March, they find something more valuable than weapons caches. In a cement house on Lê Loi Street, buried under rubble, intelligence officers uncover 14 cardboard boxes of typed rolls. The complete VCI rosters for Tua Tien Province. Each page lists cadre names, aliases, village assignments, family contacts, and party ranks. MACV flies the documents to the Combined Document Exploitation Center in Saigon within 48 hours. By the 10th of March, translators produce target cards for 380 individuals. By the 15th of March, PRU teams in the countryside arrest 41 Hamlet security cadre whose names match the Hue rolls. 23 more defect when police show them their own dossiers. The Hue captures prove the system's central thesis. The VCI is not shadowy. It is documented, hierarchical, and traceable. Across South Vietnam, Tet produces similar holes. Personnel files in Ben Tre, finance ledgers in Mai Tho, propaganda directives in Con Tum. Phoenix receives an estimated 12,000 captured documents between February and April 1968, more than the previous 2 years combined. In Quang Ngai Province, a captured district secretary's diary names 19 village-level cadre. PRU sweeps net 14 within 2 weeks. In Long An, a finance officer's notebook reveals the location of 3 tax collection safe houses. Police raids seize 4.2 million piastres and arrest 9 couriers. William E. Colby, who takes command of Cords in November 1968, later testifies before Congress. The Viet Cong infrastructure was not destroyed by military operations but by police work. Patient, incremental, and intelligence-driven. The Hue documents do more than generate arrests. They reveal the VCI's replenishment cycle. Every cadre vacancy is filled within 60 to 90 days by promotion or transfer from a neighboring district. Phoenix analysts realize that dismantling the infrastructure requires sustained pressure faster than the insurgency can regenerate. The targeting tempo accelerates. From January to December 1968, the program neutralizes an estimated 13,400 VCI cadre. The People's Revolutionary Party, the VCI's governing body, issues an internal directive in November 1968, ordering cadre to avoid routine meetings, destroy written records, and never carry identifying documents. The directive itself, captured in Jong Thap 2 months later, confirms Phoenix's effect. The enemy is changing behavior to survive the targeting. In Hue, the rubber stamp thuds over 380 names. By year's end, 64 are dead or imprisoned, and 41 have switched sides. Hanoi loses not a city, but the apparatus that would have helped it hold one. Not the infantry's firepower, but the filing cabinet's memory. On the 12th of September, 1969, at 0230 hours local time, 4 PRU operators crouch in a rice paddy 2 kilometers west of Can Tho, capital of Phong Dinh province. They wear black pajamas and know the name of the man sleeping in the hut ahead, Nguyen Van Thai, District Security Section Chief for the Viet Cong. The target card in the team leader's pocket lists Thai's 3 aliases, his wife's maiden name, the location of his mother's house in Vinh Long, and the fact that he limps from a 1966 mine wound. The information comes from 5 sources: a defector's interview, 2 agent sightings, a census grievance filed by a neighbor, and Thai's own signature on a taxation receipt captured in July. At 0245, the team moves. 2 operators block the hut's rear exit. 2 enter the front. Thai surrenders without a shot. By 0530, he sits in the Phong Dinh Province Interrogation Center, and by noon, he provides the names of 11 subordinates and the location of 2 arms caches. The entire cycle, target card creation to interrogation, takes 72 hours. This is the rhythm Phoenix achieves in mature provinces by mid-1969. Identify, locate, capture, exploit, repeat. The PRU, originally conceived as stay-behind guerrilla units, evolve into the program's kinetic arm. Approximately 5,000 operators at peak strength in 1969, organized in 4 to 15-man teams, work under Provincial Reconnaissance Unit designations, but answer to province chiefs and CIA advisors. They are not soldiers. Most are former Viet Cong, ARVN deserters, or local recruits with knowledge of village politics. They execute an estimated 30 to 50 operations per province per month. Cordon and search raids, ambushes on infiltration routes, snatch missions in contested hamlets. Between January and December 1969, PRU operations account for an estimated 6,200 VCI neutralizations, roughly 19% of the year's total. In Phong Dinh alone, the program removes 43 district-level cadre and 127 hamlet operatives, collapsing the insurgency's tax base. By October, villages that sent rice to the Viet Cong in 1968 now report cadre movements to government outposts. The PRU team leader in Can Tho, interviewed after the Thai raid, describes the shift. "Before Phoenix, we chased ghosts. Everyone knew the VC were there, but no one could name them. Now we have photographs, addresses, and family trees. It is not a hunt anymore. It is an arrest." The comment captures Phoenix's operational logic. The program does not seek contact. It manufactures certainty and then applies minimal force to the correct individual. Nguyen Van Thai's capture produces 11 more raids, which produce 8 more detentions, which yield 3 more caches. The cycle compounds. By year's end, the Mekong Delta's estimated VCI strength drops from 22,000 to 16,000 cadre, the first sustained decline since 1965. Hanoi issues replacement orders, but the new cadre lack the networks, experience, and local knowledge of their predecessors. The insurgency does not collapse. It erodes, not the raid, but the card that makes the raid possible. On the 5th of March, 1970, in the coastal city of Da Nang, a South Vietnamese police lieutenant named Lê Minh Giao receives a folder containing 47 newly translated pages. The documents, captured 3 days earlier during a firebase raid in Quang Nam, describe the organizational chart for the Viet Cong security apparatus across 5 coastal districts. Each page lists a cadre's cover name, true name, hamlet assignment, and immediate superior. Zhao cross-references the names against existing watch lists, census rolls, and agent reports. By evening, he identifies 22 individuals who appear in multiple independent sources. Zhao forwards 19 target cards to District Intelligence and Operations Coordination Centers in Hoi An, Dien Ban, and Dui Xuyen. On the night of the 7th of March, National Police Field Forces and PRU teams execute synchronized cordon operations in 6 hamlets. 14 cadre are arrested. 3 are killed resisting. 2 escape. 4 detainees provide immediate debriefs, naming couriers, safe houses, and the location of a district-level finance officer. The finance officer is captured on the 9th of March. From document capture to final arrest, the cycle takes 96 hours. This is document exploitation at industrial scale. The Combined Document Exploitation Center in Saigon processes an estimated 25,000 to 30,000 captured pages per month at 1970 peak capacity, feeding raw intelligence to 44 Province Interrogation Centers. Translators, analysts, and interrogators work 3 shifts, converting letters, diaries, and party directives into actionable target cards. The system prioritizes speed. A translated summary reaches the field within 48 hours. In I-Corps, the northernmost military region, Phoenix targets an estimated 1,200 VCI cadres during the first quarter of 1970 and neutralizes 387, a 32% success rate, double the 1968 figure. The program's effectiveness varies by province. In Quang Tri and Thua Thien, where North Vietnamese Army units dominate, VCI replenishment is rapid and targeting yields limited results. In Quang Nam and Quang Tin, where the insurgency relies on local recruitment, the removal of experienced cadre creates cascading failures. Evan J. Parker, Jr., the ICX director in late 1967, wrote in a November guidance cable, "The VCI is a human network, not a military formation. Remove the nodes, district secretaries, finance chiefs, security officers, and the network fragments into isolated cells that cannot coordinate, cannot tax, and cannot replace losses." The Gia Nang operation proves Parker's logic. By May 1970, the 5 targeted districts in Quang Nam report an estimated 40% drop in tax revenue reaching Viet Cong main force units. Local commanders complain in intercepted radio traffic that supply shortages force them to forage, alienating villagers. Across I-Corps, estimated VCI strength falls from 9,800 in January 1970 to 7,200 by December. In Gia Nang, 47 pages of captured text become 19 arrests, 3 deaths, and months of disrupted operations. Not the battle, but the bureaucracy that prevents the battle from mattering. By late 1971, the machine begins to slow. In Bien Hoa Province, northeast of Saigon, a district intelligence and operations coordination center still receives tips. An agent's brother-in-law mentions a bicycle shop customer who pays in gold, and the targeting cycle still functions. Surveillance cross-checks against a database of approximately 70,000 VCI names, a photograph matched to a 1969 target card, Phan Van Hung, province-level finance chief. On the 20th of August, 1971, National Police arrest Hung without resistance. Interrogation yields the names of 4 subordinates and the location of a rice cache. Follow-up raids net 3 arrests and 11 tons of rice. From tip to capture, 6 days. But the broader trend is unmistakable. U.S. advisors, who numbered approximately 600 in 1970, dropped to fewer than 100 by year's end, 1972. CIA funding for PRU salaries falls from $3 million in 1969 to $800,000 by 1972. The Combined Document Exploitation Center downsizes operations and transfers functions to South Vietnamese control in August 1972. Province Interrogation Centers struggle with translator shortages. PRU teams disband or merge into regular police units, with estimated strength declining to 3,000 or fewer by late 1972. District coordination cells, once meeting weekly, convene monthly or not at all. The machine does not break. It simply loses speed. By late 1972, Phoenix neutralizes fewer than 10,000 VCI cadre annually, down from an estimated 19,500 in 1971. The VCI, meanwhile, regenerates. Hanoi pours replacement cadre south through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and by January 1973, estimated VCI strength climbs back to 60,000, down from the 1967 baseline of 70,000 to 80,000, but up from the 1971 low of approximately 55,000. Phoenix's strategic effect is real but reversible. General Creighton Abrams, commanding MACV from 1968 to 1972, had emphasized in a 1970 pacification briefing, "We are not in the business of killing our way to victory. We are in the business of breaking the enemy's ability to control the population. That means intelligence, police work, and patience. Not firepower. But patience requires resources." After the Paris ceasefire in January 1973, Hanoi uses the lull to reconstitute VCI networks, focusing on provinces where Phoenix achieved the deepest cuts. By 1974, the infrastructure is functional again, coordinating logistics, intelligence, and political action for the conventional offensives that will overrun South Vietnam in 1975. Phoenix kills the nodes but cannot kill the structure. While Search and Destroy claim to break the insurgency with firepower, Phoenix actually broke it, temporarily, with filing cabinets and patience. By 1972, the mechanism has neutralized approximately 81,700 names and mapped the insurgency's skeleton across 44 provinces. Yet the rubber stamp slows and the dossiers pile untouched. American withdrawal strips the program of funding, advisors, and urgency. The VCI regenerates faster than police can target it. The invisible network, coordination cells, filing systems, interrogation centers, prove that intelligence decides insurgencies, not firepower. But intelligence without resources is only paper. On the 29th of April, 1975, the last American helicopters lift off from the U.S. Embassy roof in Saigon. Somewhere in the city below, in a locked room on Le Thanh Ton Street, approximately 70,000 index cards sit in wooden drawers, each bearing a name, a photograph, and a history. The cards represent Phoenix's total output. 5 years of police work distilled into a database of the Viet Cộng Infrastructure's human architecture. By the next morning, North Vietnamese soldiers will open those drawers and discover that the war they fought in the shadows was, for a time, illuminated. Phoenix's legacy is not the estimated 81,700 neutralizations, a number that critics contest and defenders inflate, but the mechanism itself. The program demonstrates that insurgencies are vulnerable to intelligence fusion, that political infrastructure can be mapped and dismantled, and that targeting individuals is more effective than destroying villages. It proves that the center of gravity in a revolutionary war is not the guerrilla in the jungle, but the cadre in the hamlet who collects taxes, enforces discipline, and recruits the guerrilla's replacement. For 5 years, Phoenix operates as the war's only system designed to attack that center of gravity. MACV counts enemy battalions destroyed. Phoenix counts tax collectors arrested. MACV measures success in body counts. Phoenix measures it in defections and revenue disruption. MACV treats the insurgency as a military problem requiring firepower. Phoenix treats it as a political problem requiring precision. The distinction matters. In 1967, before ICX activates, the VCI controls an estimated 60% of South Vietnam's rural hamlets, collects taxes in hundreds of villages, and operates with near impunity outside district towns. By 1971, at Phoenix's peak, estimated VCI-controlled territory drops to 30% in targeted provinces. tax collection falls by half in Din Tuong and neighboring Delta provinces, and cadre spend more time evading capture than organizing villages. The shift does not translate into headlines, but it alters the war's texture. Villages that once fed Viet Cong units now report their movements. Cadre, who once held weekly meetings, now communicate through couriers. The insurgency does not collapse, but it becomes reactive, defensive, less capable. The program's effectiveness varies wildly. In Din Tuong, Phoenix neutralizes an estimated 1,200 VCI cadre between 1968 and 1972, and government control expands from 40% of hamlets to 75%. In Quang Tri, Phoenix neutralizes fewer than 200 cadre over the same period, and the insurgency remains dominant. The difference lies in local variables: police competence, government legitimacy, the strength of competing North Vietnamese army units, the quality of intelligence networks. The program's moral record is contested. Critics point to assassinations, torture in Province Interrogation Centers, and the impossibility of verifying whether 81,700 neutralized individuals were truly VCI cadre or simply victims of personal vendettas and corrupt officials. Phoenix operates in a legal gray zone. South Vietnamese law authorizes detention without trial, and oversight is minimal. Abuses occur, yet the program's architects argue that the alternative, indiscriminate firepower and free-fire zones, killed far more civilians and achieved far less. William E. Colby, testifying before Congress in 1971, defends Phoenix as the least brutal option in a brutal war. We did not invent the concept of targeting enemy leadership. We simply applied police methods to a war that, at its core, was always a police problem. The question is not whether targeting is moral, but whether the alternative, burning villages to deny the enemy sanctuary, is better. Colby's logic is cold but consistent with Phoenix's premise. Insurgencies are won or lost at the level of village politics, and precision targeting preserves more lives than firepower. The program's tactical success is undeniable. Its strategic impact is debatable. Phoenix weakens the VCI but does not eliminate it. The infrastructure regenerates after 1973, and by 1975, it coordinates the logistics, intelligence, and political groundwork for the conventional offensives that conquer South Vietnam. The program demonstrates that targeting works, but only when sustained. In Saigon, the dossier pages rustle one last time as North Vietnamese officers sift through the files. They do not destroy the cards. Instead, they study them, learning which of their comrades were exposed, which networks were penetrated, which methods worked. The victors absorb the lesson. The war was not won by secrecy, but by resilience, not by invulnerability, but by replenishment. Phoenix killed nodes. Hanoi simply grew more. The rubber stamp thuds in an empty office, and the sound echoes into silence. The invisible network, ICX coordination cells, Province Interrogation Centers, PRU teams, approximately 70,000 index cards, proved that intelligence could dismantle an insurgency's political skeleton. But proving a concept is not the same as winning a war. The mechanism was sound. The war's outcome depended on forces beyond any mechanism's control. In the end, the filing cabinets survive longer than the government they served. The Americans leave. The VCI returns. The dossiers remain, silent testimony to a machine that worked until it didn't. The visible war, the war of helicopters, napalm, and search and destroy sweeps, dominates memory, documentary footage, and historical debate. It is the war of battalions, body counts, and firepower ratios. It is also the war that fails. By 1968, MACV has killed or wounded an estimated 200,000 enemy combatants. Yet the insurgency regenerates every spring. The visible war treats the symptom and ignores the cause. Phoenix, by contrast, targets the cause. The Viet Cộng infrastructure that recruits, taxes, and sustains the combat units MACV destroys. It operates invisibly. Police raids at dawn, dossiers in filing cabinets, interrogations in provincial towns. It produces no footage of airstrikes, no dramatic battles, no heroic charges. What it produces is attrition, approximately 81,700 neutralizations over 5 years, an estimated 40% reduction in VCI strength in targeted provinces, and a measurable decline in insurgent control across Din Tuong, Phong Din, and neighboring delta areas. The program demonstrates a principle that later counterinsurgency doctrines adopt. Insurgencies are political movements first and military threats second, and targeting their political infrastructure is more effective than fighting their armies. Phoenix anticipates the intelligence-driven counterterrorism operations of the 21st century. Drone strikes guided by phone intercepts, raids enabled by metadata analysis, networks mapped through captured documents. The mechanism is the same. Fuse intelligence sources, identify key nodes, apply precision force, exploit the results, repeat. Phoenix's failure lies not in its mechanism, but in its context. The program depends on South Vietnamese government competence, American resources, and the political will to sustain a grinding, incremental effort. When those conditions erode after 1972, so does Phoenix. The VCI regenerates because Hanoi can replace cadre faster than the program neutralizes them once American support ends. The lesson is that effective mechanisms require durable support. Precision works, but only if applied consistently, resourced adequately, and embedded in a strategy that addresses the war's broader political failures. Phoenix addresses the insurgency structure, but not the grievances that sustain it. Land inequality, government corruption, national division. In Saigon, the filing cabinets gather dust and the Haidu index cards yellow. The invisible network proved its case. Intelligence beats firepower when the target is political, but proof alone does not win wars. Wars are won by sustaining mechanisms long enough to break the enemy's ability to regenerate, and Phoenix ran out of time. The rubber stamp falls silent. The dossiers close. The network, once invisible and decisive, becomes invisible again, not because it was defeated, but because it was abandoned. While the world remembers the visible war, the invisible one offers the harder lesson. Not that targeting works. Phoenix proved that. But that working mechanisms require the will to keep them running. And will, in the end, was the resource the United States exhausted first. The war's loudest instruments, B-52 strikes, artillery barrages, battalion sweeps, produced the most footage and the least effect. The quietest mechanism, index cards, police raids, dossier pages rustling in provincial towns, dismantled more of the insurgency than a decade of firepower. Phoenix proves the principle. Insurgencies collapse when their political skeleton breaks, not when their soldiers die. But mechanisms need fuel. When the fuel runs out, the skeleton regenerates. Information beats firepower when the target is political.